so you can drop off.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Karen Maxwell here with Real Impact Plano, and I have the lovely Gabi Lockhart from Real Impact Wichita Falls and Real Impact Denton. We are so glad that you've joined us today, or if you're watching us on the replay, make sure you leave a comment and say hi. Let me know you were here. We are honestly interested in knowing who watches our podcast. We do this podcast. This is called the Plano Idea Exchange. I call it Pie, and the Pie Call. And we just get together on the last Wednesday of every month for anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. And we just discuss the things that have gone on this month or things that people want to know about. I will let you know as a disclaimer, my electricity has gone off twice this morning. And this is the third time this week. And it went off at 11:30, came back on, and went back off and came back on. So I've got my phone on standby in case I have to switch. So if I happen to drop off, I'll jump back on that. But I'll leave it in Gabi's capable hands in the meantime, and she can just roll with it. So Gabi, let's talk about what's been going on this week or this month for you.
Well, I mean, I had a lot of crazy request information. Sometimes, you can help and sometimes you cannot help. You really have to do your job diligently when you buy a house.
Your due diligence is definitely important. Buy off the numbers. Don't fudge the numbers to make them work.
Don't even, I mean, in no way, okay? In no way. I mean, make sure you really have your ducks in a row, that you really know what is your ARV. What is your guaranteed ARV? I mean, if you cannot calculate your ARV out, then you know what? Karen can get you a link where we can get you some training, okay? I'm serious. This is so important because if you buy a house with a hard money loan, and then you'll be upside down on the house, nobody can bail you out.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't work. You're gonna bring money to closing, and that's just the sad part. And if you're paying $200,000 for a house and the ARV is 240, I'm sorry, you're upside down.
Right.
Especially for renovations and stuff like that.
You're seeing that a lot with refinances too.
Yes. The refinance is really, you really have to know that. And also if you do a DSCR loan on with the rent analysis, that you really have to make sure you know what's going on in the rental market.
So let's talk about that because we've been working on some things with that, and some people may not understand that. On the DSCR loan, the ratio needs to be 1.2 or higher, right?
Preferable be, yes. If you want to keep it in the business level, it has to be 1.25, yes.
Okay, so the 1.25, the way we get that is we take oh gosh, I've already forgotten the formula.
But the thing is basically, if your rental income is $1,250 and your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is $1,000, then you're automatically by 1.25.
Okay.
Very simple.
But where the problem comes up is the rental income is not necessarily the income that you're actually receiving, because when they do the analysis, they go by the market rents or the actual rent, whichever is lowest.
Right.
So that's what we've been really talking about a lot lately. Electric company just let me know my electricity has been restored. Anyway, but the thing is when they are preparing to do the DSCR loan, and they're like, okay, well, my rent is $1,250. I've got this property rented for $1,250 per month, and my PITI is $1,000. I meet that requirement. And then the appraiser goes out, and the appraiser comes back and says, oh, well, the market rents for that property is only $1,000, and your PITI is only $1,000. So now where are you at? Now you don't qualify for the doesn't meet the requirements. So go ahead and tell us a little bit.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the thing is, it has to. That's why I said, do your job diligently. That's why you really work with when you buy the property, or if you I mean, when you buy the property and you go like, well, this is how much the rent is going to be. This is what I want to charge. This is what I can charge. You need to really know what is the rental market saying also. Okay, the rental market is really important because whatever the lower number is, that is what the underwriter has to go by. That's the DSCR guideline. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay.
Right.
So the situation is that you need to have we have some programs, they go to a 1-in-1, yeah, but it's not profitable and it's not becoming a business DSCR anymore. Which is a lot because it goes on your credit report. Yes, we can do those, but they're gonna be not as profitable than the other ones are.
The terms are not going to be as great, right?
The terms are very different, and you have to understand you're not in the position on negotiating with us on points on interest rate and stuff. There's no negotiation on that part because we have to give you what is out there.
Right.
Okay.
If it's within this set, it's this interest rate. If it's this one,
That's
it's this interest rate. Goes
yes.
up or down accordingly. And that can
Right.
really throw a wrinkle in your plan when your plan was to rent the property. And like I said, you could get it renovated and rented out for a higher amount. But
Yes.
but the standard is, or the rule is, you got to go by whichever is lowest. So
Right.
what you and I were discussing was the need to get a lot of to get them on the MLS, because that's where they're pulling the market rents from. It's from the MLS. So
Right.
if you are charging, if you have a property that you want to rent for a higher amount and you don't list it on the MLS, you may have a portfolio of properties that are rented higher than the ones on the MLS.
Right.
But they're not going to pull that data when they're doing the appraisal and determining the market rent. And if the market rent is lower, then yours is, it's not going to matter. So we want to try to get those, and we've been working on ways to get those into the MLS. And we've been working on flat fee listings for rental properties.
Right.
And do we want to give his contact information or just tell him to call one of us?
They can call one of us. That's the best thing to do.
Okay. So if you are a landlord, or your goal is to be a landlord and you want to have a property that you're going to rent, if you want to do a flat fee listing, you can call Gabi or I, and we will give you the contact information of a realtor it has to be in the DFW area, or an area that the North Texas, what is it? Interests?
Netrix.
The matrix interests, NTREIS. It's got to be one of the areas that they cover, and they cover a lot of counties. And I could not even begin to tell you all the counties they cover, but you should know. But if you're in the DFW area, I mean, it goes up. There's a lot of different areas that he covers. So if you'll give us a call, Bobby's number's on the bottom of the screen. You can make note of that. It's 940-704-7065. Mine was on the screen earlier. I'll put it back on in a little bit, but I wanted to, I know Gabi has to get off here to get to another meeting. So we want to be considerate of her time. And so anyway, that's something that we've been talking about doing. A lot of landlords, individual landlords that are self-managing, don't list their properties on the MLS because they don't want to lose. They want to make as much money as possible. So they try doing it themselves and finding their own tenant. And we've got a colleague that will list it for you on the MLS for a flat fee. He's not going to do showings or anything like that. He's just going to list it on the MLS for you, give your contact information for you to handle finding your tenant and all that. So, and of course, everything's going to be the price is going to be based on how much he has to do for you. If you want him to show the property, if you want him to actually list the property, show the property, then he could do that if he's in that area. But yeah, we're super excited about that because we saw a need for that. And I talked to a couple of other lenders. Gabi, your RMLO, residential mortgage loan originator. That's a lot of words. But Gabi can help get your, if you're buying a house and if you need a loan to buy your personal residence, she can help you with that. But she also helps investors get their loans for the DSCR and a couple of other options. And she can also help you get your tenant buyers qualified for a mortgage so they can cash you out. She has a lot of different programs that she offers. And if you have any need for any kind of lending, give Gabi a call, and I bet she can help you out with that. So
sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, Karen and I, we're going to start coffee with Karen and Gabi.
Yes, we're going to kick that off. We're planning on kicking that off in January. Friday mornings at 8.
Yes. And so basically, we're going to have a cup of coffee and you can ask us questions. And or we're going to discuss with you what we do. We do actually every morning. We have our brainstorming. So you basically can have a brainstorming with Karen and Gabi with a cup of coffee.
That's right. Grab your cup of coffee, your cup of water, do your workout, whatever you want to do.
Whatever it is. And join us and have a brainstorming meeting with us, because that's how we really come up with some of the best ideas that we ever come up with.
We come up with solutions, we come up with ideas, and that's where this flat fee listing for rental properties came up. They have that for, and I'm sure there are some realtors out there that do it, but it was something that we noticed a need for several months ago, and we've spent quite a bit of time doing some research and checking out all the options and how we can best do that. And I'm not a realtor. Gabi's not a realtor. But that's the whole point of having connections, because we have connections with people of all different. If you need a HVAC, I always say HVAC, flooring, total rehabs, barn dominiums. Shout out to John Lyle over in East Texas that builds barn dominiums. If you need a barn dominium, call him. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, we have so many connections. I mean, I got a call this morning on an emergency thing. Couldn't help him or her or whatever, but I was able to make the connection to somebody else and brainstorm with that person, made a connection again. I mean, there's not really that many options this person has, and there's really nothing else you can do about it. When you have a problem, take it by the horn and say, okay, I have a problem, and come and talk to us.
Yes.
Okay. Do not wait until
rather than reactive.
Yeah, be very proactive. Very proactive, okay? Like I talked this morning to somebody and they said, are you updated on your CE class, by the way? And I'm going like, yes, I did mine in April. She said, oh, that's awesome. I said, yes. Because some people are cramming it in as we speak, okay? It's due by the end of December. But they still have to approve you. You still have to go through the whole process, which is going to be a nightmare. I'll be honest with you. So be proactive. If you get letters in the mail that your house is being foreclosed on, don't wait a week before foreclosure.
Right. Okay? Or the Monday night. I've been called on a Friday night and a Monday when they were going to foreclosure on Tuesday.
Yes, it's too late.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a solution, but you won't like it. And I'm not an attorney, so I cannot tell you that. But I can give you a good attorney's number. If you need to, you can call me and I will get it to you. Because Wade Quicken, he's just amazing. He's a wealth of knowledge. And so that's my thing is, don't wait until the last minute.
Right.
And if you struggle with making your mortgage payments, it doesn't matter if you're in an owner finance, if you whatever, give us a call. Talk to us.
Yeah, we may buy it. We may be able to help you.
We may help you. We can do what, I mean, we find so many solutions because we have so many different options. Because we have a large network, a large team. Like I got a call from Longview this morning.
Oh, good.
Yeah, or
I need to go look at a house.
Well, there's a house for sale, by the way. Yeah, but it's just you never know. That was actually before 7:00. Yeah,
and that's what you and I do every morning. We have basically a brainstorming call every morning when my phone's not dead and you wake me up. But we talk through the problems. We talk through, I've got this issue going on, trying to think of a solution, and you may come up with that solution for me, or just in our conversation, one of us may have that. How many times have we said, oh my God, That's
I
it.
got it.
Aha. I gotta go. We just worked that out. I gotta go. I gotta go present this potential solution to this client or to this,
Yes.
investor or whatever. And then like you said, sometimes we may not be the solution. We may not have a solution, but we may know somebody that we can refer you to, or we can present a different strategy.
Right.
Whenever we're analyzing deals, we always try to present 3 offers. And the all cash offer may not be as good as the obviously it's not going to give you as much. Typically our cash offer is lower than if you were to offer seller financing. You carry the note, we turn you into the bank, sell us your property, we'll take care of it and pay you. Right. And it helps in so many ways, but not everybody can do that.
Nope.
If they have a mortgage on the property, for instance, we might have to take, where's Roger? Roger's supposed to be on here today. Roger? Oh, I'm looking over here on my phone. Roger, where are you? You said you were going to be here today.
One more thing I want to say before I have to hop off.
Okay.
Pay attention to what we say.
Yes.
Because I'm here to help you. I'm not here to, I'm negotiating. I bargain for you.
Right.
Okay. I even go and say, hey, can we renegotiate some of the deals? Okay. That's one thing I really want to say. Do not go behind my back and negotiate. If you do that, you're going to be, you can, that's fine. But most likely I can do a better job.
Yeah. Let us do our jobs.
Let me do that. Especially if I have to bring an investor to the table that helps you, let me do the negotiation. Because I listen to what they say. Even people think I don't listen. I do listen very carefully. And let me put the pieces together. Okay? So you don't lose on a deal. I had a call yesterday or the day before, whatever. And that person basically said, you know what? I shot myself in the foot. And I said, yeah, you did. Because you didn't talk to me and you didn't let me negotiate for you. That's what you're paying me for.
Right.
And you're still going to have to pay me.
I'm still listening.
So, but that's basically, let me talk to me first before you talk to anybody else. If I'm involved in your deal, okay? Then talk to me first before you talk to somebody I bring and match you up with.
Right.
Okay?
And trust that.
And trust me with it. And if you feel like I'm not trustworthy, then then you have go on a call and tell them that. Okay, I don't care.
Roger's joining. I just saw his comments. He said that's interest, NTRIS, and he'll tell us whenever he gets on what that stands for. I forget. North Texas, something or other. All North Texas, MLS, DFW, about 30 counties. So,
and more.
There's Roger.
Yes, Roger. Okay, Roger, I'm going to let you take over me because good to see you.
How is
Sorry, I was listening in on YouTube. I wasn't on StreamYard. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think I forgot. I sent it to the different email address. So
no, I wasn't looking. I was just. I didn't think I'd be on today. I thought I'd just.
And then renting out aspects of it, whether it be bedrooms or other.
MD, I'm going to mute you. I think you got something going in the background.
Yeah, but I'm going to let Roger take over now because he is a wealth of knowledge itself, and I have on the other call that I have to be on. But I hope Linda Jean is doing okay, and I hope your dad is doing okay.
Thank you. They're both doing great, and I'm here to clean up your mess, Gabby.
Which mess that you left before that we just cleaned up? I'm not going to take it. So yeah.
Thank you for joining me today, Gabby.
It's
great
a great
talk, Gabby.
Yes. So don't forget Coffee with Karen and Gabi coming up in January, and maybe we let
Friday mornings at 8 a.m. We're going to kick it off early.
Yes. Okay. I need to go. Talk to you later.
Bye, Gabi. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, Roger. MD, I muted you because I could hear some background, and I don't see your camera on. I don't know if you wanted to be on the show. You're welcome to participate however you want. There is a private chat button if you want to ask any questions. And just feel free to join in as you can. All right, Roger, how
Yes,
are you
ma'am.
today? How are you
I'm
today?
doing great. Doing
Good.
great.
Well, what do you want to talk about today? What have you had going on?
Well, we've been getting a lot of activity in the subject to end about the due on sale clause, and people are panicking about it.
Okay.
The word is, especially on Bigger Pockets and some other blogs out there, that banks are wanting to call the loans because they want a higher interest rate. And what people don't really realize is those are just banks that service the loan. They don't own that. They don't have that money. That money is in a hedge fund. That money, those people don't want to foreclose on the house.
Right.
But we're getting a lot of activity about people that are out there concerned about that and not wanting to do a subject to. And in some ways it does affect the seller too, because sometimes they will just, the same people will just come out and say, well, we can do this, but the banks could call this loan and they could do this because the interest rates are really low on your loan and the interest rates are higher now. So essentially we are not seeing that. Every subject to I have ever seen and been involved in, out of hundreds of subject tos, but everyone that has had the bank question the deed transfer, the due on sale, what we consider the due on sale clause, every single one of them have come back with an underlying reason why the bank did that. So if you do them right and you keep everything in place, the bank's going to be happy because the payments are made right, the insurance is made right, is done right, the closing was done with the title company. The sellers don't have an attitude because you didn't explain it to them, you didn't disclose it to them, or whoever the buyer is didn't disclose things properly. So pretty much everything is in place. The banks don't worry about it. And if they do, there's things to say. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We have a subject to call tonight. If anybody's interested in that, reach out to Karen if you're not already on the list, and she'll get you the link to that. But we're seeing people just panicking right now,
Right.
because of the due on sale clause, and it's not the case. And they go back and go, well, back in the 70s when interest rate went up so high. Well, first of all, most of us weren't in this business in the 70s. The people I've talked to, number one, is every loan essentially was assumable in the 70s.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of due on sale clause because for $25, I think, or $20, I think it was, you could just put money down. They wouldn't even run your background. You would just assume the loan and it would go out of the seller's name and go into your name for $20, $25.
Yep.
And
it's not that way anymore, though.
What's that?
It's not that way anymore.
It's not that way anymore. Banks changed that back in the early 70s. And but when people come back to you and say, oh yeah, we saw this happen when, during the Carter administration or the early Reagan administration, when interest rates went up to 18-19%, it didn't happen. And I have never met somebody that said that actually could qualify to me and say, oh yeah, that happened to me. I've never seen that. Now, I'm not saying I've talked to everybody that's ever assumed a loan or ever did a deal, but like I said, it always has an underlying reason why that loan's being called. A great gentleman I was talking to earlier this week, he's got a challenge and he did everything right, and we're trying to figure out what that challenge is. We haven't figured that out. I'm convinced it's not because of the interest rates. I'm convinced, and he's done over 100 sub-twos, but he has the first one that's really gone anywhere with being called, and we have solutions for that. There's, Karen and I both been doing this for a long time. We know how to fix that. We know how to work with Land Trust, or we do whatever needs to be done, and he's getting that solved. But there are some challenges there, and like I said, we just that's my soapbox for today. That's what we're going to talk about in detail tonight, is what to do on those cases and how to deal with that, and come up with a solution. Don't just throw up your hands and say, I'm done, I'm not going to do this anymore, and then walk away from that investment.
Right. So I want to touch on a couple of things about what you just said. Earlier, before you joined, Gabi and I were talking about being proactive versus reactive.
Right.
And as you are the person to talk to when it comes to subject to, I want to say subject to means taking over the property subject to the existing financing. So that
Correct.
note stays in place and you're coming in and you're paying that mortgage payment, that loan payment. Assuming the loan, if it's assumable, if you're assuming it, that's different because you're actually having to go through basically getting qualified for that mortgage. You do get to take it over the balance or however you negotiate it or work it out, but it's different. So I don't even allow anybody on my team to use the word assume.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to assume your loan. That's misleading. If you're intending to take it over subject to and you say assuming, that's different.
Right. Well, many FHA loans are assumable, but what people don't realize on those is you have to be the owner occupant. You have to live in that house to assume it, and it does cost money. You have to pay for the title company to redo some title work, and you have to qualify, and sometimes you have to give the bank a little bit of money. That's through there. So I need to Karen, talk about something right quick. I need to open the door up real quick for the therapist for my wife.
All right, go ahead. So while Roger's answering the door, it's just me. I wanted to say that let's see, assuming versus subject to. Oh, I wanted to talk to him about the reason. So being proactive versus reactive. What Roger teaches in the Subject to Institute, which is what the call we're having tonight, we have a monthly call on that, is the step-by-step process of buying a property subject to the existing financing and making sure that you have all your ducks in a row, making sure that you're doing everything right from the beginning, full disclosure, everybody knows what's going on, and having it set up from the beginning the right way so that you avoid any situation which may cause that note to be called due. The number one reason that I've run into, not for me personally, but that I've run into with talking with other investors, is not paying the property taxes on a property, not paying the payments on the property. So if you have, for example, you're having the note paid monthly through third-party note servicing company, and that payment isn't being paid by your end buyer, so therefore your monthly payment isn't being made to the bank, and you don't pay attention to that and you don't catch it and you don't make the payment, they can very well call that note due. That's the biggest thing that I've seen. The reasons that they get called due is because the payment didn't get made. The underlying mortgage payment didn't get made. And that can easily be avoided if you just set it up the right way from the beginning, which Roger and I know we both want our payments taken out of we want to be responsible for that. So we make that payment. That payment is on auto pay out of our business accounts, and we make sure it gets paid every month. So go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I've talked to, I've got a dog in here now because the dog is very protective of Linda Jean, and she's doing the physical therapy thing. She had back surgery last week. So, she's doing very well. She's actually a trooper. Pepper, knock it off. So
go get some salt, Pepper.
Yeah, come over here. Come here, Peppers. Come here. All right. There we go. Look at here.
There we go. Oh, he's
either going to make more noise because he's closer to the mic, or he's going to shut up. Like I said, they have a story. There's always a backstory. Mm-hmm. So if anybody on this call ever talks to somebody and they go, "Oh, you don't want to do a subject to," or "You got to be careful about a subject to," because I have a friend of a college roommate's grandmother that had hers foreclosed on because you want to find the why. You want to find out, why did they foreclose? Why did they call the loan? And most of the time, it's just as you just said, somebody wasn't making a payment.
Yeah.
Other times it's the insurance. Other times it's the it's the process they worked it in. So that's why Karen and I are here. That's what we teach. That's what we teach anybody wanting to get in this business. You need to have the knowledge. You need to work off other people's experience and
learn
knowing
from their mistakes.
absolutely. Or I learn from other people's mistakes and I go, oh, I don't want that to happen.
Right.
That's not going to be good for me. So, and then it's communications. If there is a problem, it's absolute communications with the bank.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've got to be good at communicating with the bank. And if you're not good at communicating with the bank, then you got to figure out somebody on your team that is.
Right.
You don't want to just bury your head in the sand and think it's going to go away, because it's not going to go away.
Right.
Okay. So, but and sometimes, and you want to review your insurance declaration page, because sometimes the insurance forgets. Isn't that good language? Insurance forget to keep the original mortgage holder on the insurance as additional insured.
Yeah.
And that happened to me while we were in Cancun this year when we went down to the getaway. I'm at the airport and we just get to the hotel because it's that afternoon. Lynn Jean says, "Oh, there's a letter from one of the banks, and the insurance is not done correctly." And I said, "Okay, here's what we've got. I don't remember, at the time I didn't remember what insurance company it was, but here's the file. Pull it up and find out what insurance company that is, and then contact that insurance company and make sure that the seller's name is on that insurance as additional insured." Well, sure enough, they dropped it off. And some insurance companies, they have to leave that on there on a manual basis for whatever reason. So I don't really understand why they dropped it off, but they did. We got them the insurance, and the insurance company sends that directly to the bank. They know who to send it to. They know where to go. You don't, as an investor, we don't do any of that. We just make sure it's done right. So,
I want to go back to that real quick. In my experience, we've had a lot of issues with our insurance company sending the new policy, proof of insurance, to the wrong address because the bank changed hands or they sold the note or whatever. And there is one in particular that's with Mr. Cooper now that has gone through, it's been sold off several times. And we have had trouble with that every single year, to the point that I have a reminder set to remind the insurance company, check with the bank, where do we need to send it this year? Because it changes. And if they don't receive it, they will force place insurance. And now you're on their radar. And it's not, we did never have insurance lapse, but they just didn't get notified. And then if you don't pay attention to that, now you're paying force placed insurance and you're on their radar, and that can cost you money. I've actually been successful in going back and having that force placed insurance removed because I was able to prove, like, hey, our insurance never lapsed. Here's our proof of coverage. Here's our proof from the insurance company. What is the updated email? What is the updated address that you want it sent to? And I've had to go through, especially when our biggest challenge was when our bank that had several notes, that bank changed ownership. It went from this company name to this, from this bank's name to this bank's name, and they changed the address completely, everything. And we had to just let the insurance company know, like, hey, this is the new address, and all of it to them. But that one with Mr. Cooper, and it's not their fault. It was the same bank before that, the same bank before that, that we just have to make sure that every year they're notified of our continued insurance coverage. So
absolutely.
It's an extra step, but it's necessary, and it's just part of managing your business. So
right. And on tonight's call, I'm also going to talk about, there's a troll that is out there on Bigger Pockets. Pretty interesting. He actually says on Bigger Pockets, he's an investment company. He looks for properties on the secondary note market where he's buying a note from a bank to service it, to own the note, not service it, but to own the note. And he looks for deed changes. He looks for people that picked them up subject twos, and then he will foreclose on them for no reason whatsoever, so he gets that property.
Wow.
And I don't think he's long for being in business, because there's so many regulations against that with the federal government. The federal government says, literally you cannot foreclose on a performing note.
Right.
And they have to go through all. And so I want to mention about this guy because it's very interesting. I'm trying to stay off this guy's radar, but so we're going to talk about that tonight. Like I said, it's very interesting what he is claiming his business plan is, and that's how you can get in all kinds of trouble, and you make enemies that way too. So he's messing up with the people that are the sellers. He's messing with the people that are the buyers. He's messing with, if it's a wrap, then you've got a wrap buyer out there. So there's so many things wrong with that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight too.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. I see MD is testing.
Yeah.
She was asking if this is a question and answer session. I was telling her yes. Feel free to ask any questions, MD, if you want to unmute yourself and ask, or if you want to throw it in the chat. Either way is fine. You can throw it in the chat on YouTube, or you can throw it in the private chat. I'll see it any of those ways if I pay attention. I don't always see this little thing popped up. Okay, good deal. She said thanks. Oh, looky there. I can show comments. I was like, what does that do? So, Roger, do you want to talk any about insurance? What is often referred to as due on sale clause insurance not being insurance?
Yeah. So I have a company called Equity Assurance. People get it confused, and
assurance, not equity assurance.
Right, with an A.
Assurance, not insurance, and that's where I think a lot of people get confused about that. Go ahead.
Well, and part of that is Pace Morby is a real good friend of mine. He actually wrote the foreword of my book, and he has a video. Once you do something on YouTube, it stays out there for eternity. And he has a video out there where he talks about, and he calls it insurance, and it can be very very misleading to a lot of people. And but what we do, what I offer is say, hey, there you go.
Look who that is.
Yeah, you got one too, right here. There you go. So what I do, or what that company does, is we work with the investor to prevent the due on sale being called.
Right.
Okay. And there goes the dog. But we work hard to keep that from happening. We do hey, there you go. Look at there. My book's everywhere. Everywhere. So, but
she's like, bye.
That's right. There you go. That's all she wanted. So that was her test. So, and I offer this pretty much in most of the states of the country. I will work with somebody. I'll consult people in every state, but I really don't want to be involved in anything in some of the and I don't want to make it political here, but the blue states, the very liberal states are very difficult to do creative financing sometimes because their regulations are a lot stricter than the conservative states. I guess the best way to put that. Right. So if you're involved in real estate investing, you want to make sure that you are up to where the laws are locally and state-wise, essentially, and where they hold. So it can be very hard to get creative financing in, say, for instance, New York State, New Jersey, California, Oregon, Washington. The Northeast states and the Western states can be challenging. Do we do subject twos in those states? Absolutely. But like for New York, it's just this side of impossible to find an attorney that's willing to work with a creative investor, whether it's subject to or owner finance or sometimes wholesales, those types of, they're just scared to death of it because they're concerned about their state laws. I mean, you can look right now and see what's going on with Trump and how he's getting indicted in New York State for things that would never happen in other states. And that not only happens to him. Don't think that he's the anomaly there.
Right.
This kind of thing happens every single day in those states to creative investors. And so you want to be educated whenever you're doing creative financing. You want to be educated when you're just doing investments, of knowing what your state laws are. So 3 years ago, we had a new regulation come through. It's called SB 43, and it was based upon doing wraps and owner financing. And I don't have an argument with any of that happening. And hang on just a second. Let her in. Let her in and send her upstairs. Bring her up. Thank you. Therapist number 2 coming in. We like I said, I went blank on that sidetracked me on there. But
SB
SB 43. Thank you. So SB 43 is state of Texas, and it regulates how that's done. And they put it out, and it was very difficult when they put it out, but it quickly changed because they realized they put some, and that happens on laws all the time. I've seen in my career, well, let me keep on SB 43, but SB 43 makes it where you have to use an RMLO, which we were just talking to Gabi, when you're doing a wrap, and you have to use a servicing company. And I don't know why anybody would not want to do that anyway.
Right.
But
It's just easier. It's just easier.
And it doesn't cost the investor any money.
Right. The
Literally,
buyer pays for all that. So why not use that? It's you don't want to have more on your plate than is necessary. So, it's about disclosure, being completely transparent, making sure that everybody knows what's going on. And it's a protection for you and your buyer. So I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to do that, but some people just are intimidated. Go ahead.
Hang on just a second.
Okay. Some people are just intimidated by the extra paperwork or the extra steps, or they don't understand the process. But the RMLO will their job is to make sure that person that you're wrapping it to, that they have. How do you explain that, Roger?
Well, number one is it's good for the seller, and it gives a comfort level to the seller, and the seller knows that there are more eyes on that transaction than just that investor.
Right. And
there were investors that were bad players, and they were doing some things wrong. This all came about because of an investor in the El Paso area that was using the advantage of the English not being the primary language of many of the buyers and many of the sellers. And he was using that to his advantage, and he wasn't doing things the way they should be done. And he was taking advantage and foreclosing on these houses when they shouldn't have been foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And so we had, so we, as you stating, we as the state of Texas, I'm not in state politics, but that had to be put into place to where the sellers are protected, which essentially will protect the neighborhood, protects the bank, protects the investor. So when all my properties are through August REI on the servicing, and I don't have to worry about the IRS documents going to the seller. I don't have to worry about the IRS documents going to the buyer. I don't have to worry about IRS documents for me. I don't have to worry about any of that because August REI handles all that.
Right.
They, and for collection of the payments, it makes it very easy. People buying, and you're using August REI as a servicer. Those people can. I'm really sorry about the dog.
No, you're fine.
Those people are. They can pay ACH. They can pay by mail. They can pay going to the office, going to the August REI office. They can pay at Kroger. It comes out of their paycheck. Whatever they want to do, they can transfer it out of the bank account. However they want to do it. So we don't have to worry about it as investors about, oh, well, the check's in the mail, it must have got lost in the mail. How many times we heard that kind of stuff. And so we that's why we want to use a good servicing company. And that's why we want to do that. So once again, in most states out there are organizations out there that are lined out for working with investors. You want to qualify them. You want to make sure that they're a good organization, not somebody just putting together a group of people, a lobbying company or a lobbying deal. There you go. A lobbying process to where they're doing their business meetings on a cruise, or they're going to Europe, or they're going to some fancy resort somewhere to do their meetings, and the money's not really going to lobbying. And so there's been a couple of bad players in Texas that I've seen over the years, not only in real estate, but in some other areas where they collect money from an organization, and that money never goes to where it's intended to.
Right.
But most of these lobbyists, if they're doing their job, they're playing for you. So, for instance, NAR, National Association of Realtors, there's some good and some bad there, but that's why that was established. So they could go to the federal government and have lobbyists in place and working with the lawmakers in those areas to make friendly laws for realtors and having their voice. I know several congressmen and senators over the years. I've known them. And if you talk to them, they'll be honest with you and say, for most of the bills they do, they're lucky to get one or two phone calls from their area they represent, good or bad, about the bill they're representing.
Yeah.
Most of the bills that are processed get no feedback whatsoever, from the general public. And when you have a lobbying organization that helps you out, that means a lot towards investor-friendly laws.
Yeah.
So work with your local REI group. Ask around.
Y'all did a lot. You did a lot for that with the SB 43, right?
I was kind of on the outskirts involved in that. I've got a very good friend of mine that owns a lot of investment properties. He was very involved in that, and we would go to lunch, and I would give my opinion of what needs to be done. And part of that was to use RMLOs and use servicing companies, just to make sure everything is done correctly. People were getting mortgage documents off Google. They were servicing their own loans. They were handling escrows when they weren't licensed to handle escrows because they didn't know any better.
Right.
And when I did my Subject 2 all-day event a year ago at your Plano location, we had somebody in the room that said, "Oh, we didn't know we couldn't keep our escrows.
Right.
We didn't know that had to be a licensed deal," and it really kind of concerned them because they had several of them out there. Yeah. They remedied that problem immediately, like the next week. They reached out to August REI and they got that taken care of. But there are, and ignorance of the law is no defense.
Right.
But if you have other people involved and, if you're working with a servicing company and they're not doing something right, you're probably not going to be held responsible.
Right.
For that servicing company because they're licensed.
Yeah. And the ones that we've had issues with are the ones that in the early days, we didn't require the insurance and taxes to be escrowed. We just let them pay up front. And then when the annual policy came due, they didn't renew. And then the taxes didn't get paid. I mean, it was a mess. So that was, it was our fault. Had we done it, had we followed our checklist and followed the procedure, followed the process, trusted the process, we wouldn't have had that issue. And that's what I want to talk about. I threw up in the chat the link to get joined up for your Subject 2 masterclass. And in your masterclass, it is you want to talk about that? What you now are offering it online, which is amazing because you're your in-person masterclass is absolutely phenomenal. You provide all the documentation on the thumb drive, like we can have access to all that. But now, I mean, that's a lot of information to take in on a one-day class. It's all day. It's like 8 hours of just bam, 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 bam. And there's a lot of information to take in. And when you hear it for the first time, it doesn't always sink in until you're in the moment and you have a subject to that you're working on and you're like, oh my God, what did he say about that? So tell us about your online masterclass.
Absolutely. So we have set up an online masterclass. What we found is I would do an all-day Saturday subject to class, and it's very intense. It's literally training from the first minute to the last minute. The number one response that we got from people that attended those classes, we always sold out. We never had one we didn't sell out.
Right.
And we always sell out. But the number one is this needs to be a multi-day event because you've got so much here you're trying to cram in that we can't handle everything. And so that's where the idea of the online video series came in. So spent a lot of time working on this, spent a lot of time thinking it through, a lot of things that I want to see when I'm on an online class. Number one, lifetime access.
Yep.
I don't want to have something that I have to watch and I never get to see it again.
Right.
Number two is make it affordable, which we've done.
Yep.
And make the videos short. So you're not going back and going, all right, that was a 1 hour video. And somewhere in there, he said this.
Right.
I don't remember what he said. And they're going to start through it and then they're never going to find it. And they're, it's like when it's a snow day and you're trying to see on the bottom of the TV, whether or not your kid's school is open or delayed.
And you turn away for 1 minute and
you're watching it scroll on the bottom. And then one of your kids asks a question, you turn and you answer that and you look back and your school just went by and you didn't see it. Now you have to wait for it to scroll back again. Yep. And so we've done that. I added about a month ago, I added about 15 little 1 to 2 minute videos that are just a quick reference. And then we have another video that's going to be anywhere from 8 to 12, 15 minutes. I don't have any videos that's over 15 minutes in the process. And there's you don't have to watch this one before you can go to this one and then you go to that one. It's jump around and watch them as you need them.
Right.
It's going to tell you whether or not you've watched that video. And so it's real easy to go back and go, now it's one of those that I watched. Okay. Roger's got about 100 of them in there. So which one was it? And I've got them categorized. I have them in categories of, the basics. Every live class I've ever taught on subject to, so I've been doing this for 15 years. I always have somebody that will, at the end of the class or the next day or the next couple of days, say, okay, I found a property that doesn't have a mortgage. How would I do a subject to on that? And I'm like, how can I explain it even better than that? So it has to have a mortgage to do a subject to. So that's where I went in and I broke them down into categories. So I have essentially the basics of subject to, just the basics. Everybody needs to, even if you've done 20 subject twos, there might be something in there you go, oh, I didn't know that. I have a client that has over 100 wraps, all subject twos, and they did not know how to do the insurance. So they were paying 2 different insurance policies on every property. Now, times that by 100. So he had me go to his office and I sat down. It was a 15-minute conversation with his office personnel and him talking about, well, here's how you do the insurance. And we have that in the video series. And he's like, man, that was simple. And it just saved him well over $100,000 a year. That's huge.
Insurance.
Insurance, absolutely. So he was he wasn't adding himself to the original insurance, just keeping it in the name of the seller, which you really can't do because you can't insure a property you don't own. The seller doesn't own it. They can be additional insured. and they were buying a separate insurance policy on every single property, so they were covered. So we have the basics. We have I have at least well over a dozen different ways to market for sellers. And that's probably the biggest question we have. And Gabi mentioned a little bit while ago in her part, but there's a lot of sellers out there that don't. They are a lot of investors. I'm sorry, a lot of investors out there don't know how to market for properties. And the first thing they do is they jump in and say, "Well, I'm going to go to the foreclosure list," and that's the worst way to market for subject twos, because you have to bring a lot of money to the table, or sometimes the banks are done. They don't want to work with those people anymore. We go in and we explain about deeds. We explain about the different types of mortgages that are out there and how any of those will affect your subject to. Kind of building their business plan on understanding what they're looking for in a deal. Okay. I've been a realtor for a long time. I work with investors, primarily investors. I've had so many investors that will want to look at a property, will drive over there. I'll meet them at the property and they go, "Oh, I don't want a property in this neighborhood." Well, that's the number one aspect, is knowing what you're looking for. I had a guy
looking for it.
Absolutely. I had a guy call me one time. He wanted 100 acres. I said, "What are you going to do with it? You going to have a ranch? What are you going to do?" "No, I'm going to build apartments." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, 100 acres. How many apartments are you going to build?" He says, "About 100 apartments." And I said, "So you're going to have each apartment on 1 acre of land?" and he kind of shut down his conversation because he realized he hasn't thought it through. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I'm not criticizing, because I'm a big thinker. I'm a big problem solver, and I'm a big optimist. So sometimes those three things will get me in trouble. "Oh yeah, this will work," and that didn't work, type situation. So so what they're looking for in a deal. Okay, I'm at the property. Now what do I do? Now what do I do when I'm at the property? How do I talk to the people? That type of deal. And then the gotchas. What are you looking for before you close? And make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, like you were talking about a while ago on the escrows. And sometimes that will come back and bite a lot of people. And of course, we go through in detail on the documents. Yep. We go through those documents.
And you provide all those documents.
Yes, and all the documents are provided in this. Dozens and dozens of different documents. You're not going to use all the documents on any one subject to, but we provide the power of attorney. We provide the disclosures. We provide the sales contracts, several state contracts in there. So you really want to use a state contract, promulgated realtor contract, when you're doing any subject to or any investing in period, because those are the ones that title companies are most familiar with, and they're not going to throw it back to you and say, "Well, we don't want to do this because, we don't want to do this." And they usually won't tell you why, but a lot of times it's because you're using some document off Google.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then, what I like about the way you do it is you break down how to fill out, therefore how to fill out each piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
How many is it? 8 documents? Roughly.
How many documents do I have?
No, for the basics of a subject to.
Yeah, and it can be up to 8. Sometimes it's less, but you can have a sales contract. We have a subject to addendum in there.
Okay.
That was written by lawyers, and that's good at any state in the United States. And it's a 3-page addendum, and it's essentially spells it out. We have a letter of understanding that we do.
I love your letter of understanding.
That absolutely. We have that. And then we get into the disclosures, and depending on the property, sometimes there's multiple disclosures. But people have to understand, nationwide, the disclosure is the one document that will outlive the closing. Mm-hmm. So all the other documents are dead once it closes. Okay, because it's already done their job. The disclosure continues to live because, and I've personally seen this happen, where somebody buys a house and they have it inspected and everything's good, but when there's a busted sewer line in the front yard they don't know about, and the inspector goes in there, flushes the toilets, runs the sinks, runs the tub, but doesn't put enough water in there for it to back up. The people move in and there's a sewer problem. and the disclosure says nothing about a sewer problem. So they call the plumber, and I've seen it two ways. One is plumber comes out there and goes, "Oh my God, I've been out here a dozen times, and that guy that owned it before you would never fix it."
Yeah.
Didn't disclose it. Or the neighbor comes over, because everybody has, a neighbor that's the nosy neighbor, and
Miss
go, "Oh, you
Kravitz?
got a plumber out here, Bob. Oh, Bob always had a plumber out here. He always had plumbing problems with that house." So that's a good example of that, is hiding that, or not disclosing that. And if you're doing a wrap, or if you're reselling that property, you don't want to be in the middle of that. Even though you may not have done anything wrong, you just don't want to be in the middle of that. It can be trial. In Texas, we have triple damages. Now, that doesn't mean that the plumbing problem is a $10,000 problem, that somebody's in a lawsuit for $30,000. That's not it at all. It's triple damages of the value of the house. So if the house is worth $200,000, it can be a $600,000 lawsuit.
Right.
And so that's why we have the disclosures in there, all the disclosures. And then we have, let's see here. What documents you're going to provide to the servicing company and the RMLOs, what documents you're going to need for your wraps, because that's part of the servicing company and RMLOs, and what documents you're going to need for record keeping.
Yeah.
Karen and I have a mutual friend that did a subject to, and never did anything other than close with the title company. Never put the insurance in his name. Never changed the mailing address. So his tenants got all the mortgage statements. His tenants got all the tax statements, all that kind of stuff. Never did anything other than just close. And when he went to go sell it, he had a problem. And he's trying to, and unfortunately the sellers that he bought it from, he took over the mortgage from, they were local and they were very well, they very much wanted to help. Okay. They were available. They went, they'd sign any documents, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they're scattered in the wind.
Yep.
And if you don't have your ducks in a row, it can be a problem. So with the link there that she has there on the Subject to Masterclass, we have that in place, and it's we've gotten some great feedback on this. There you go. Thank you. It's a living process. In other words, it is changing all the time. So I'm on the phone multiple times a day with people doing subject twos, and something comes up and I go, that's going to make a great video. I'll record a video on that real quick.
Because there's no way you could ever cover every possible scenario.
No, absolutely not.
Well,
so
there's always new things that come up and new solutions that come up.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're going to do subject twos, you need to be educated. When I first got into this, I paid a lot of money to learn to be coached. Karen paid a lot of money to learn and be coached. And it just...
And it wasn't in just one session. We're talking years of personal self-development. I mean, you guys, you need to invest in yourself. Roger, we are out of time. I do want to say your Subject to Institute Masterclass full day class that we do typically once a year. We have not done in 2024 or 2023, but it never fails. We get asked the week after the class. Somebody says, I really would like to take a class and learn more about Subject to. And we're like, it was last week, and we're not going to do it again for a while. But your master class was, I want to say $397, 300 and something for
it was right at $400. Yeah.
Yeah. For one day. And your new masterclass online course at subject2institute.com is $475. And you get the same content but you can go back and listen, you can go do it from start to finish. You can go back next week or next month and listen to the section on insurance or the section on, the scripts, talking to a seller, analyzing the deal, things like that. But that's what I love about it, is that you not only get everything that you get in the full day class, but you can go back and re-reference it, because I hate when I go to a training and I have to go to the restroom and it's not during a break and I miss what was being said while I was gone.
Right.
And so I love that you're offering this now online, and it's, basically not even $100 more, but they have lifetime access to it. And then you also get to join our Wednesday night, our last Wednesday of the month, monthly calls, where all the Subject to Institute students and previous students get together and we talk about what questions do you have, what's come up. It's a Q&A, live Q&A. And that's going to be tonight at 7.
At 7 o'clock.
All right. And Roger extended the invitation. If you are not a Subject to Institute student yet and you want to join us in the call tonight, we'll be happy to let you join us. Just give me a call. My number is right there on the bottom of the screen, 903-445-6023. You can call me, you can email me, or text me. Email is realimpactplano@gmail.com. Super simple. So yeah, we look forward to that tonight. And I still have to look at my sheet for insurance questions on Subject to. And I'm talking to somebody else that's paying for 2 insurance policies. So because they're scared to cancel one. And I'm like, okay, we gotta address that.
Right.
So, okay. You got anything else you want to wrap up with, Roger?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And we'll see you guys at the end of next month.
Sorry about the confusion of not getting on in time. So
no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm looking at the calendar to see what December holds. Okay, it's the 27th of December, so that's between Christmas and New Year's. I'll still do a call. And so we'll see y'all December the 27th. If I don't see you.
All right, good deal. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks for joining us, MD.